Hey guys, it's me, it's Dylan Dungeon Master here, and this is the first video I've ever done like this. It's going to be talking about the toxicity in D&D and the hopeful kindness that lies there within. Personally, I've been playing D&D for about a year and a half now, if at most, and as a newcomer to the fandom and the community, I have to say it is both one of the best and worst fandoms I've ever come across whatsoever. Now, this game it has gone through a lot of changes. You have some of the old guard that will tell you some things and other things. Like there's rules apparently that exist that are not written down anywhere, but everyone knows them, such as no tunneling. You don't proxy camp and stuff. And most of these will exist for the killer. Now we're going to be talking about that more in depth, but if you enjoy the video, you know what to do. Now, the chapter one is toxicity as a survivor. As a survivor, you can make the literal killer's life a living nightmare for a number of reasons. Number one, uh, usually the survivors are bringing extremely powerful perks, and we'll talk about that later. But they can also bring extremely powerful add-ons or just annoying add-ons. Say, the flashlight clicky, and this is something I see a lot, and I always look at it, and I play Survivor. I've always looked at the clicky as like uh, you're in a situation where like you personally are not hit yet, or you know you can loop better than the person being currently chased. Say they're injured and about to go down, but you flashlight clicky. It's basically like, hey, come over here, play with me for a while. That's how I see that. But some killers get enraged about it, and I'm sorry, but I personally don't see that as a huge toxic thing unless you are a complete jerk about it, and sometimes it is a bit overboard with the clickety clickety. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about is the teabagging, or the it's basically if you have no flashlight, it's the clicky clicky if you don't have the flashlight, or it's just basically the same thing as, hey, you know, come play with me, come play with me, you can't get me, na 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 na. And that will usually start a chase, as I'm saying. Both of these things I don't see as too harmful. But sometimes it is very toxic when you have a whole group of these survivors with extremely powerful perks going and absolutely steamrolling the killer, and then just, being unreachable and absolutely, teabagging and clicky clicky the killer. That's when it becomes a problem. When you have absolutely demolished the killer, either it being a new killer or you have perks that you can just absolutely steamroll the game, or add-ons like a new parts, whatever, and you decide to clicky clicky and teabag and just taunt him beyond in while he's already under pressure. That's when it becomes a little toxic. Now, gin rushing, gin rushing is a thing. It it's extremely toxic. Let's be honest here. Gin rushing exists to give the killer absolutely no chance. And sometimes, if they see the loadout maybe before, they might have a chance, but it's literally meant to do generators as fast as possible and give the killer as little chance as possible by steamrolling gins. I mean, gins will pop off sometimes one, two, three. I mean, immediately, giving the killer absolutely almost no chance to make a comeback whatsoever. He might have one hook, three generators done. It takes an extremely strong killer with a lot of map knowledge in order to come back from those situations. Now, messages after game is a little bit a thing we'll probably get onto a little later, but let's say this is a big thing. After the game, you decide to friend someone and give them a nasty message. Don't do that. It was a game. It lasted probably about 10 minutes of your life. You'll be okay. Stop taking the game so seriously. It is fine. And that works. That's another double standard we'll be talking about, but mostly, you will mostly see negative comments from the survivors attacking killers. I have never seen a killer give a nasty message to anyone ever other than good game, you played very well. Okay, so chapter 2, the double standards of perks and add-ons, which is a wonderful segue. Now, you have perks such as like head on, deception, decisive strike. or what's a bill perk, the Unbreakable, that exist. There's that one with a motorcycle. Its name escapes me. Basically, it just makes you wiggle extremely fast. There are perks for the Survivor that are absolutely stacked against the killer. If you have a whole team of DS and Unbreakables, you may have a very, very, very difficult time. Now, also, the add-ons. Let's talk about their add-ons. You can have stuff like toolboxes with new parts and cutting wire, which extremely cut down the time on the generator. Now, that's usually primarily what people use to gen rush, most of the time, I believe. Excuse me. Uh, oh, wow. Okay. Now, let's say you have Noed. As a killer, you have Noed, and you have Iridescent Head, and you have all these perks, Barbecue and Chili. Uh, Hope Devoured, or you know uh, Devour Hope, stuff like that, stuff that nobody likes. Well, nobody likes them means that survivors don't like them, because killers would use them if people didn't whine about it as much. See, these perks have gone into a closet that literally means you're a bad killer, or you're a cancer killer, or you're just bad. They're basically the flagstaff of, I can't play against it, so I'm gonna whine about it until nobody uses it anymore. And that has been a big thing on killers. Killers are extremely limited in what they can do and not make people mad. As you will see later when we talk about the toxicity of the killers, usually the killer is in response to getting gen rushed and all kinds of stuff. Usually that's when they break out their toxic behaviors, because they have to even the playing field, and thus that makes the survivors extremely salty. This double standard exists because apparently the survivors think the game is just about them. As a survivor main myself, it's extremely sad to see that people forget that you have four people compared to one. You can have mics, you can have all this stuff. However, the killer is limited, and you regulate this killer with his underpowered perks and his underpowered power, and you think, if he wins by using underhanded methods, let's be honest, survivors will use every advantage over a killer that they can, and get mad when the killer does the same. All right, we'll move on to the third thing. I believe it is the toxicity as killer. Now, killer, I haven't played it much, but I have played against it quite a lot, because I'm survivor main, duh, go figure. Now, some of these are extremely toxic. Some of these I don't see them as. We'll cross that line. Camping. Now, camping usually refers to when you're on the hook and you are now being heavily guarded, or just stood sentinel in front of this killer. Will not leave you. He will make sure you die on hook. Now, this is usually in response to being gen rushed. There's probably about 3 generators done, I can tell you that, and he's finally got at least one person down. Now, if they start this from the beginning of the game, it can be extremely toxic, but I don't see it as a big deal, because usually 2 or 3 people will see this, and they'll come and try to make a plan to come get you. Now, I was face camped by a nurse. Did it make me a little bit peeved that, a high mobility class was camping me? A little bit, but how he played, I was able to realize that this was a baby nurse, or he doesn't play nurse all that much. It might be even a young kid playing this. So I wasn't too mad about it. Now, patrolling, or prox camping, is when the killer, you'll begin to see a theme, aren't you? The killer decides to just make a path and stick to it. You may be on a hook. You may be patrolling generators. You may not be going away. You may have 3 gen yourself, which basically means there's 3 generators left in proximity to each other, and they decide to patrol it. And they will not go away for any way, shape, or form. And usually that's in response to people gen rushing, not realizing they've 3 generated themselves, and then, well, you know, not only that, but he could also, you might be on the hook and he might just, patrol around you and make sure that nobody can come get you. Again, this is usually in response to gen rushing, and it is not a huge deal. In fact, I think every killer has been guilty of this in one way, shape, or form. And honestly, isn't it what you're supposed to do? Make sure that, they don't get off the hook, or are you just supposed to leave that thing you've invested your time in and go completely on the upper side of the map, let them reset, let them heal, let them do all this, and then let them get let them get the advantage again. To me, it doesn't as logically, it doesn't sound logical. Now we have basement camping. Now this is like a subset of camping where you take someone to the basement and you guard the stairs, and there's 4 hooks down there, one for each of the survivors. So the friend comes, you hit the friend, you put them on the hook right next to the other friend, rinse, repeat, you've won the game. Now I find this pretty toxic, and it's usually a Bubba or a hillbilly or trapper. There's literally a build called basement trapper. Now, yeah, it is infuriating to play against this, but it's it is extremely toxic in my opinion, because like there's no way for this to be countered unless you have specific perks that are supposed to counter it. And since you can't see the killer's perks at the beginning of the game, or anyone's perks at the beginning of the game, it's kind of hard to get a game plan together to go save someone. Now, camping can be easily countered by doing gens. If you know the killer is camping, then you need to do gens. That is the biggest thing I can stretch. They get punished by doing gens. If they're only tunneling one person, you need to do gens. If they do not survive, do not make a plan of rescue, do gens. Because if one of you at least survives, alright, because if you get caught going after that person, you're in a much rougher situation. It's just the logical thing to do. Now, powerful add-ons. Here's what we talked about earlier. There are certain add-ons like Ruin Hope, Devour Hope, stuff like uh, No Ed, No One Escapes Alive, that are found extremely toxic. And like, no, let's be honest here. If you go against a Tombstone Myers or a Sneaky Myers, in the next game there will probably be a Burger King Myers. Now, what a Tombstone Mirror Myers is like a hit insta kill Maury Myers that will just take you out of the game extremely fast and be in his top tier form almost the entire game. Now, is that overpowered and broken? Yes. But is 3 people running Decisive Strike and Unbreakable broken? Pretty much. That's that double standard we talked about earlier. Uh, Now, there's one perk that is so hated amongst the community, is so reviled, and it literally has the simplest effect in the game. It just makes the killer immune to flashlights. It is Lightborn. Now, flashlights are a huge component of how survivors troll that I failed to mention earlier because I wanted to talk about it here. Flashlights are used to save someone when they're being in the carried state, or they're used to blind the killer. Lightborn nullifies that, and there are literally troll squads of survivors that will roll around in lobbies just for the fun of just making the killer blind 24/7 anywhere they can. Or whenever they get close to the survivors, or whenever, or if they pick up a survivor, they're literally just a troll squad. So Lightborn nullifies this, and they complain about it. They want it nerfed, or they want it gone for the killer. Now, I think this is one of the rare instances that survivors can have this perk, and killer can have this perk. But it is very one-sided in the fact that they want it gone for the killer because it ruins their fun. Personally, I find Lightborn to be harmless because I play itemless whenever I play, because I think it's an unfair advantage to most killers to have, 4 people roll up rocking toolboxes. Now, most I'll probably bring is a health kit if I'm not playing Claudette or don't have self-care, because I find it extremely hard for me to find somebody to heal me. Now, number 4 is cheating allegations. Cheating allegations are something that happens usually when a survivor, go figure, a survivor doesn't comprehend how they were hit or downed or how they lost. Usually this happens with targeting killers like the Huntress, someone who has a long range projectile, and they think, because of the hitboxes, maybe if I hide behind this rock, I shouldn't get hit. When in reality, their hitbox is a lot bigger than they think it is. This happens a lot, and people who can't comprehend how the killer found them, or maybe how much map knowledge the killer has, maybe if they're paying attention to the scratch marks, or who knows what, and they will legitimately report this killer or this person for cheating, even though they have zero proof. And it's funny when the other person is legitimately streaming at the same time. You get these instances of, oh, you're cheating. No, I don't. I streamed the whole game. You can watch it. This is how I hit you, and this is what I did. It's a clean hit from here. No, no, you're cheating. No, I have the proof. I'm not cheating. And that situation's always fun to be in, and something I think in the future we need to avoid. Now, if someone's clearly cheating, they're floating in the air, they know where you are 24/7. They they don't have barbecue, they don't have lethal pursuer. All of these things, they don't have them, and they're still, extremely, you know, overpowered. Then maybe you need to look back at your footage. Maybe you need to look back or watch them in some other games and see what's going on before you make somebody cheating. Maybe they're just an extremely good killer, but throwing around the word cheater it's dangerous. It can get people banned, and that's never fun. Now, stream sniping and chat harassment. This will usually go to stream sniping is basically when you watch someone stream, you know what they're doing as you're playing the game, you know where they are, you know how they're doing, whatever. I don't find that's like illegal to do on like TOS and stuff. It's heavily frowned upon, and everyone knows it's wrong. I don't need to explain why it's wrong, but I think it is that I need to talk about more what usually comes with that, and that's chat harassment. Usually, when you go into someone's chat, spam GG good, GG easy, or some other thing. Usually, when you do the chat harassment thing, it is extremely toxic, and it usually starts up a back and forth between whoever and whoever's stream and whatnot, and it's not nice to do, especially if like you're a hacker or something. But if you just don't let it bother you, it's not a huge deal until they start throwing slurs and KYS and other things like that. Then it becomes a problem. Now, if you do that, you need to reevaluate where you stand, because this game is for fun, and if you go around being extremely toxic, like nuclear level toxic, that is no good, as Sonic would say. Now, targeting is the next thing we're going to talk about, and it kind of lumps in here with the Twitch streamers and the YouTube streamers. Targeting, TTS. Now, usually, if someone's like a Twitch streamer, they'll put TTS in their name, or they'll put YouTube in their name. And that's, well, it's simple, good, and fine. People might freak out. Hey, it's Spooknjukes, it's Odd Starva. Oh, it's cool, it's cool. But there are some people, some really, really people that annoy me, that go, and my name's Morbid Tick on it. I don't have YouTube or Twitch. I'm just a normal name. But people go after these guys just to make them have a bad day. And there's a certain Spooknjukes video where this guy, he goes after this person for not having self promo, no self promo in his chat rules. And he goes after this person, he makes sure they die, he face cancels them, and he acts like a total prick the entire match because no self promo. Wow, what a big man. See, it's stuff like that that really gets on my nerves, and it makes me want to stop playing DBD because it is so toxic that it's almost nuclear levels of, I don't want to play this if the whole community and fandom's like this. And that was my initial impression for a long time. Well, not for, well, yeah, for a long time, because I played like 3 matches and I left it alone for a while. Then I came back to it. My brother wanted me to play it, and I came back to it. And this is the final part of this video, and it's not the longest, but it's the most important. It's about the hopeful kindness in D&D. The fact that even in the midst of this toxic community that so many say we have, that Simple acts of kindness really shine through, whether you're a survivor or a killer. Killer, kills the rest of them, brings you to the hatch. The killer opens the door. The killer, lets you go. He finds you, he pins you, and he realizes he just wants to. He steps back and allows you to resume the chase, or he allows you to wiggle off if you were glitched. Stuff like that. Simple, simple kindness. The survivors, survivors allowing him to get his hits in at the end of the game, allowing him to down them at the end of the game before crawling out. The simple fact that they may go around and play friendly with the killer before returning to the game, the serious game. It's amazing to see, and I really wanted everyone to take away from this video that if you're gonna pick up D&D or DVD, Dead by Daylight, and you think that it's just all bad because all the people all the time just talk about all the bad things. You see all these salty streamers, you see all these face camping killers, and you think that's all it is. It's one of those things where the good will easily get glossed over, and you need to take the time to try and see it. Now, most games, 90% of games are normal. I'd say probably 5% of them are going to be bad, and you have the 5% that are nice, that neither you or the killer or you and the survivors are hostily going at each other, and you're actually acting pretty friendly toward you. And I don't mean like throwing the game. I mean like not doing anything, or perhaps helping each other. Like if your game glitched and you're stuck, the killer hitting you and getting you out, or some other things. It's real. It's very limited because the game's a competitive game, but you get people that will, take people to the hatch and let them go, or take them to the exit and let them go. If they think you played well, if they think you were, skilled, but they weren't toxic about it, or if you were the only one not to DC. Say if like the killer was doing good and they all disconnected and you stayed, and and he just allows you to get hatch. It's quite a wonderful thing. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of talk about the toxicity and the hopeful kindness in D&D. I know as a community and everything that DVD has a long way to go. It's an old game, but it's not a relic, and its fan base is still pretty lively. And I know, like, together we can all make it a little bit better. So that's what this video was for. All the killers who take a person to hatch and never thanked for it, thank you. All the survivors who never clickety clickety flashlight, thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Dylan Dungeon Master out.